Hello, this is Katie from Crafting Ruby Dreams, and welcome back to my channel. Here on Crafting Ruby Dreams, I talk about planners, goal setting, writing, publishing, and getting right with my finances. Today is a getting right with my finances video. It is basically the state of my finances. It's been a while since I have done a financial related video, so you can check out my playlist of getting right with my finances to see other videos that I've done about this particular topic and get a feel for where I have been and where I'm at. With the start of 2021, I wanted to get an overview of my financial life and to figure out the mindset that I have been in the recent past, as well as where I'm moving toward for this coming year. The basic state of the finances is going to include my cash flow, my savings, my debt load, and what my 2021 financial related goals are. So for cash flow, things were a bit rough towards the end of the year. November was really heavy on emotional spending, and for various reasons, a lot of it stress related, and the fact that I was not routinely meeting with my therapist for various reasons. I got myself into more debt than I wanted to, or at least I overspent what I should have. I was able to pay everything off within about a month or so, but that involved taking some money out of my line of credit, therefore adding to my debt load and everything. It was just not ideal, but I recognized what was happening, and so I was able to get my mind to where I needed it to be, in that it's like, hey, you don't need to spend everything. You don't need to spend money as soon as you get it. You don't need to spend money that you know that you're going to be getting. The mindset of having money is a little frustrating when it also comes to the needing dopamine hits, serotonin hits, because of the state of the general world in your life. And so I wasn't the best in November, but what didn't help all that much was actually the holidays. Holidays can be a rough time emotionally for various reasons. Generally, being with my family is a good positive thing for me, but we were not able to have our routine Christmas celebrations, and figuring out how to pay for presents for my loved ones to be able to get them what I wanted to get them added to the stress, especially after I had already spent a lot of money getting things for myself, because again, the dopamine and serotonin hits. So those were frustrating points as part of my journey, but recognizing those and accounting for those and dealing with those and not trying to sweep them under the rug. So what I have started doing here in January of 2021 is that I am working toward only having 2 spending days a month for basically the fun things. So I'm trying to get away from feeling the need to buy something on a specific day and time, unless I have already saved the money for that particular thing, and I'll give you an example in a moment. This does not actually include things like I need to buy food for the week, or hey, something has happened that I need to get a specific thing for, such as I've been having foot problems and I needed to get an arch support band, and my foot was not going to wait until the 31st of the month because I had already missed the spending day for the 15th. So that was something that was a necessity, not a nice to have or a want. So that is the key, is to identifying what truly are necessities versus nice to haves and wants. And if you can, saving the nice to haves and the wants to buying on specific days. It doesn't have to be only 2 days a month. It could be 1 day a week, whatever is going to get you out of the mindset of, oh, this releases today and I have to get it. So if it is something that is quantity limited and you are not going to get it if you don't buy it at a specific time that happens to be outside of your designated spending day, you need to save up that money ahead of time. You have to have that money ready to go. So the example for this that I have is that I knew I was going to want to buy the 2021 Celebrations collection from Christiane Designs whenever it released. I decided back in November, and this was part of my spending spree in November, but I decided back in November that I wanted to get that. And so what I did was purchase gift certificates specifically for use for the Celebrations collection, so that when it became available this as I'm filming it on Sunday, it released this past Friday, the 22nd, and the pre-order goes through possibly Tuesday the 26th, but I did see that they might actually sell out of the pre-order amount prior to the close of the pre-order. I do know that if you are interested, they are planning on having more available later on in the year. Anyway, I had already set aside that money for the purchase of that particular item. So when I went to buy on Friday, the 22nd, the money was already there. It was already in my account. I did not have to spend any extra money than I needed to. So that felt good and it felt okay. So buying certificates ahead of time, or your sinking funds, creating a sinking fund, allows you to be able to buy things that you need and or want throughout the course of the year and already have that money available. So I am working on the concept of sinking funds. That is something that I'm still trying to wrap my mind. Like I totally understand the concept. That's not the problem. It's figuring out in my budget how I can start contributing towards sinking funds. That's what I'm having trouble envisioning with the way my budget, such as it is currently, is. So that is my cash flow for the last few months. My savings, I have retirement savings through a number of past jobs. So I have a few accounts, and I have been doing well in the ones that I can control. And admittedly, there is only one, which is the one for my current job, that I actively control. There are two that, one, I cannot control, period. There is no option for me to control how that money is invested. That is done by the retirement board for everybody. So nobody has a say in how their funds are used in that particular account. And then the other one is that I have not been able to log into what is supposedly an online account that I have available, because the company that my previous job had originally signed up with is no longer the managers for the account. So I need to spend time figuring out the administrative aspects of it, and that's just something that I have to set time aside for, and I'll deal with it in the future, as I keep telling myself. And then there is another account that I haven't actively gone in to control. It's been doing well, and luckily the person who set that account up for me did it with growth in mind. So that has been growing in the last year or so. It was very stagnant for the longest time, just due to the market, but the market in the last year, 18 months, has been doing well. So that particular account has doubled. And considering that I've had that account for 10 years now, yes, 10 years, And it is only just now in the last, say, 6 months hit the double mark. It's a little frustrating, but whatever. So future plans for those retirement accounts is 2 of them to potentially fold into my current retirement savings plan through my current job. Especially the one that is stagnant and I have to like dig around to find the admin access for. But the one other account that I have no control over, that is a retirement account that I did vest in, and if I were to remove that money, I would lose all of the employer contributions, and I'm not willing to do that. So I will just let that money sit there until I am ready to retire. But everything else, I do have some semblance of control over, so I will work on having control over them. The other is my cash savings. In my active accounts, which is my day-to-day bank account, it's not that big. I am looking to increasing that particular amount, but I am also trying to be aware of putting money aside that I am not going to see on a day-to-day basis and thereby be tempted to spend whenever I log into that account. I do have another savings account that I've just been stashing money in more basically for the last year. And so I need to go in there. I haven't actually looked at the balance in about a month or so, but I know that I'm comfortable with what that amount is, but I also have plans for that money that I'll be getting into a little later. And so I need to like sit and actually look at how much money is there and what portion of it I want to divide out into various financial goals to account for that money and use it basically as a place to have a sinking fund, and how I want all of that money allocated for different purposes. The other thing is my debt load. My debt load is still a lot more than I want it to be. And I did add to it in order to zero out my various credit cards over the holidays. And the payments for everything is still within my comfort range. And I say comfort range, I really need to air quote that, because it's frustrating to be the age that I'm at and still feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck when I get paid what I get paid. So, and all of that is because I am trying to aggressively, to a degree, pay off debt and be debt free within the next little over 2 years. I do have a plan. When I was doing my analysis of my budget back in August and September, I took a look at how much I owed between my various accounts and basically doing a snowball once my one particular debt ends. Let me check the date of that. In April of next year. So I do have target dates for when each is, if I were not to even more aggressively pay them back when they are due to end. And so I keep track of that in my budget planner that I have here. It's an Erin Condren 7x9 classic size. And so writing it down on it, because I write, here, I'll give you an example. This is January. So I take a page and I write down what the source of the debt is, the name of the debt, what the beginning balance at the start of the month is, how much I pay towards it through the course of the month, as well as what the ending balance. I don't try to break out what the interest rate or anything like that is. And then I also write out what date the debt is to end by, and if it has a specific end date, I should say, because there is the line of credit that is flexible, and so that lives for until I have it paid off. So if I carry debt on that particular account, then it's a live debt. If I don't, it's something that exists but is not an active debt load for me. As of January 1st or 2nd, I forget which day I was actually looking all of this up on, I carry a little over $45,000 in debt. And I'd like it gone. I really would, because I would like to have the use of that money in order to both spend on the things that I want to spend on, like travel and other things like that, but also to use it to further build my wealth, like add to my retirement savings, and be more aggressive in that respect, and be more aggressive in other wealth building activities. So I am working on coming up with ideas for me to increase my income, and that is going to be outside of my day job, because my day job, it's fixed. I did recently get a raise for moving up in pay status for my job, but it's not a lot. It like provides a little more breathing space for me through the month, but it's not enough for me to feel comfortable taking from that small bump to add to the debt payment, because I want that extra little buffer to basically not add to the debt load. So that's how I'm using that extra money, is basically using it as a way to not add to the debt load. So it's a neutral aspect to it. I would very much like to find ways to increase my income in order to pay off my debt load a little faster. And so whether that is offering up consulting services, I'm still trying to figure out. I am looking at possibly making printables and other related planning things available for sale. So we will see. If there is something that you would be willing to purchase from me, please let me know in the comments, because I am taking any and all ideas. I am trying to make whatever this is, in some ways, passive income, though I know consulting services is more active, but I am not looking to do something like suddenly like crocheting or knitting on demand for people. That is a hobby. Knitting especially is a hobby that is reserved for me, and I do it for myself. I have in the past tried to do work for other people, and I just realized I didn't like those projects, so I was completely uninterested in doing the work. So I know myself well enough to know that that is not something that I could do to create something for sale. So like I said, I do have some ideas for some printables, and I am also toying with the idea of offering up consulting services after some recent experiences, which I did talk about in one of the weekly vlogs. So let's talk about my financial goals for 2021. I have 4 big financial goals, and these goals affect other areas of my life. And I've also kind of talked about these in some of my planning videos with regards to using my Moxie Life Planner. And the first one and the biggest one is that I want to move apartments in DC. I have a set financial goal in my head for that, and the goal budget / savings I need for that, or at least in my head, hopefully this is overestimating, is $4,500. I think that is a reasonable amount to pay for any deposits I need to pay, make for the new apartment, be able to pay the first month's rent, possibly have to pay for last month's rent at the current apartment. And I say that those 3 would probably eat up that budget by themselves if I have to pay a full month's rent at the new place as a security deposit. If I don't have to do that, then whatever difference between the security deposit and what is left in my account would hopefully pay for the cost of moving. So there are some things that might be in play that would be alternatives that I'm not willing to speak on at this point because they're so up in the air, and there are things that I'm just considering, but I might be able to do some alternatives to this. But I'm going into this with the idea of moving from one apartment to the next apartment and needing to pay an overlap period for those apartments to make moving between apartments easier. That's always what I have tried to do, just to make my life a little easier. Ending a lease on one day and not having the lease for the next apartment available until after the lease ends for the previous place just is something that bothers me mentally. That's not something I want to do. So I am planning for an overlap period between the two apartments, and I am also planning on paying somebody to move me, because it's just gonna be, even if my family, or at least parts of my family, comes out to help me break down the apartment and move some things over, there are other things that I would rather pay movers just to go ahead and move those things for me. So we will see how that all plays out. But hopefully by Christmas time 2021, I will have moved apartments in DC and be in a new place. The next big goal for me is that I want to save at least $1,000 for a vacation in 2022. I have great hopes for the vaccine to be widely distributed enough to make a vacation of some kind feasible for 2022. And honestly, I am just thinking even a long weekend at the beach in a rental beach house. I'm okay with that, where I like stay in the beach house for almost the entire time and just go out to see the beach. That I am willing to negotiate in my head for something as small as that. But at the same time, depending on how the vaccination process goes and other things, maybe something bigger. I don't know at this point, but I also have a better savings goal of $1,500, because if I can do 1,000, great. That will be the minimum. But if I can go better and go for the $1,500, that will make my option. I will have more options, and that's what I'm looking for. Is that I just want to have more options. The third goal I have is to reduce my debt load to $23,000. Considering that it's currently at a little over $45,000, actually I might be right around $45,000 as of this taping, I think $23,000 is a reasonable goal. Preferably, I'd like to get it under $20,000. So that's my third goal for 2021. And then finally, my next goal is to buy a new MacBook. I am really, truly in need of being able to have a workhorse computer that is mobile. I have been making do with my phone for filming and editing purposes, and I can do my writing on my iPad as I've been doing for the last 5 years. It's been fine. It's been great. And it's like, and I probably will continue to do my writing on my iPad, just for the fact that I can focus in on one thing. It's like, yes, I can switch to the internet if I need to, but it just focuses me in on that, and so that benefits my writing. So I will probably continue doing the writing on the iPad. But in order to do more intensive things, I need to have a laptop. So I am looking to buy a MacBook in order to be mobile. I already have a Mac desktop. I'm not getting rid of that. That will still be my main computer, but when I am on the move to visit my parents, or when we can go out and about again, and maybe go back to my office later in this year, I want to be able to carry something with me that will allow me to do the work that I need to do when I'm not at my apartment. The next thing I want to talk about with regards to the state of my finances is how important therapy has been to me in order to get me towards the mindset that I want to be at for dealing with my finances. I mentioned how in November I was not meeting with my therapist for various reasons, and that contributed to a rise in my emotional spending. Something that I have realized is that for me personally, having a neutral third party to talk to with regards to my feelings about spending and just stresses that I'm going through in general, having an outlet like my therapist has allowed me to get those feelings of stress outside of myself and give me the brain space to work with the tools that I already have and the tools that my therapist and I work to develop together in order to find solutions to my problems. So I'm not reactive as much when I am having routine therapy appointments. I can, if I'm having something that I'm having a stressed time with, I can pause for a moment and think, my next meeting with my therapist is X many days away. So I'm going to save this for then. And I'm not going to go, oh, let's go see what's on sale over at Nordstrom, or what can I buy new from Jet Pens, or like who's having a sale, what can I go buy? I'm not having those thoughts in my head as frequently as I used to. And it feels so different. I can honestly say that when I had to spend money this past week on things that I did need to get, they were necessities, I felt actually a little resentful that I had to spend money on them. There were certain things that I was not resenting spending money on because they were belated Christmas presents, mainly because the people involved finally told me what they actually wanted. So it was just like, okay, great. But the thing is that I had that money in my mental budget. And here's the other thing that I need to work on, and you may need to work on as well, is that I will have a mental budget that is not rooted in reality necessarily. And what I mean by that is, it's not only just not rooted in reality as to what your budget actually is, but you may have mentally accounted for that money, but you have not actually accounted for that money in your budget. You have not set it aside in some way. And that's kind of what happened with this thing. I was finally told what it was that the people involved wanted, and I went and got it for them and spent the money that I had planned on spending, but I hadn't followed through on my plan to actually set that money aside. So this is where things like sinking funds come into play, and really having a good working active budget that you are constantly going in and accounting for. So I right now, I have a spending tracker. That is what I have. I'm accounting for my spending. This is reactive. It is not proactive. And so you need to, and I need to, this is as much about me as anything else, be more proactive with your money and assigning purposes for it and making sure it's set aside and safe for doing the job that you have intended for it to do. So this is all, if you watch a lot of personal finance videos, this will all sound familiar. This is nothing new, but it's getting yourself to that mindset, even when you like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. It may make sense and you may not disagree with it. You may totally agree with it. But unless you're actually thinking that way and implementing that mindset and those practices, you're failing yourself. So those are some things that therapy is helping me work through and deal with. So related to that, not necessarily therapy related, but being proactive and getting a handle on things. I've talked about this before in the weekly vlogs, but Wild University, which is run by Wild for Planners. So if you go to wildforplanners.com or just search Wild University on your favorite search engine, should pop it up. For the January 2021 major, Jen plans, Jen DuFore of Jen Plans. So she's Jen Plans here on YouTube, and she is also Jen_plans on Instagram. She did what they call the major course for January 2021 called Budget You. And there's two phases to what her program is. The first phase is taking an audit of your finances as they are and going back through your previous year's spending and seeing where your money is actually going. Because you can create a budget and say, I'm going to spend this much on groceries. I'm going to spend this much on gifts. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But that's not rooted in reality. This is where I think a lot of forward planning budgets fall into trouble, is that if they are done just saying, this is what I think I should spend my money on, without having looked at how you actually have spent your money, it is not making informed decisions about your future spending. And so I still need to, this is part of what I was starting to work through back in September and October and August. It was doing an audit of where I had been spending money. And so what I need to do is do the full audit still. It's like, so I'm already partway there, but I need to actually go through and organize all of my spending for the last 6 months that I have been tracking, and also go through and look at what my actual accounts say for the past full year. And I know it's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be fun, but it is very necessary. So this is going to be a process, and I don't know how long it's going to take me, because there's so many things I tried doing, and carving out time and actually doing them is where I keep running into problems. But since I have some big financial goals, I need to prioritize this. The next step is creating the budget based on what your spending habits are and what your spending priorities are. And not just spending, but savings and your financial priorities. So I highly recommend, if you have not checked out Wild University or Wild for Planners or anything, or check out Jen's YouTube channel. She's got a lot of resources available. I really highly recommend signing up for even just 1 month of Wild University to go back and take this particular course. There's a lot of other courses, but if you're focused on personal finance, there are some other videos in the diploma, is what they call it, DIP-LLAMA library, that are on personal finance. But this particular course I think is so valuable. And so even if you just sign up for a month, it will absolutely be worth it. So that is my plug for Wild University, and specifically the Budget You course. So that is pretty much the state of my finances as they currently are. But looking toward the future, I have, and this is like 2022 and beyond, there are a lot of things that I really want to do. I'm not going to be fully debt-free as long as I don't add to the current debt load until somewhere around my 46th birthday, which is July 2023. So, but I have that focused in my head, is that that's the date I want to be debt free by, hopefully sooner. I really hopefully sooner, but that's going to take some effort on my part. But I know that the vision of my financial life is that I want to be able to pay for all of my expenses and both my necessities as well as fun things that I like to do, like my supplies for knitting, my supplies for planning, my travel. I love traveling and I miss traveling. Having an apartment I enjoy living in, or whatever space, whether it's an apartment, it's a condo, or a house, who cares? But a place that I truly enjoy living in. Possibly having a car again one day. I've been car free for 5.5 years now, but I miss driving. I love driving. I don't miss the expense of having a car by any means, but I miss the act of driving. So being able to drive on a regular basis, whether that's from renting cars or owning a car, who knows? It's going to depend on my living situation. But I also want to have, in addition to like the core things of being able to pay for the basics of life and then being able to pay for the nice to haves, I want to have a little extra to both put away and use for emergencies and basically not have to worry about money. I'm tired of worrying about money. I've spent pretty much my entire adult life worrying about money, and it's not fun. I worried about it as a kid because of the situation with my family. And so I would like to just know what it's like to not worry about money. And I'm getting there. It's mindset. It is getting control of my finances. And like I say at the intro of every video, it's getting right with my finances, which involves like getting a budget, getting the right mindset, and other things. So that's where I am today, January 24th, 2021. And I am so happy to have all of you here on my journey. I am planning on doing these updates at least every 6 months, possibly quarterly. If you'd like to see them quarterly, let me know in the comments. And I'm just so thankful to have you all here. So if you haven't already, please hit that like button so that YouTube knows to recommend this video to others who might find it useful. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and the bell to be notified about when future videos are available. Thank you so much for being here, and may all your dreams be Ruby dreams. Bye-bye.